So I wanted to talk a little bit, actually preparing a talk in a business context this week to talk to, um, give a short talk to some technology leaders. So I was contemplating what are the, you know, what I'd really most interested in sharing if I have 10 minutes with a group of technology leaders. And so I've been pondering that for the last few days, and wanted to give a bit of a dry run on that talk here, if you don't mind being guinea pigs on that talk. But so what I wanted to talk about is uh, a concept that obviously I didn't invent, but I found super useful in terms of what is abundant and what is scarce, and the how that changes over time. What is abundant and what is scarce, and depending on what's abundant and what's scarce, then that drives different behaviors. So, for example, and the main thing that I just to cut to the chase, what used to be scarce was access to information. And what used to be more abundant is our time. But what has become extraordinarily abundant now is access to information. And what's become extraordinarily scarce now is our time, and in particular, our attention span. And with that, though, it's important also to know that the information that we see is not necessarily the full story. And so there's still some scarcity, in the sense that what is manifest always hides a few things in the background. For example, the history of how it got there, and the interdependencies that have led up to that. So, for example, for everything we can see, if we just look around us in our homes and so forth, everything has a story, right? Everything has come from somewhere. And there's the part of the story that we know, and that's kind of the nostalgia part. But then there's the story before it came into our experience. There's a story that we don't know, of someone who, made these things, or installed them, or shipped them, or the raw materials that they were made of. And those things are like, it's not so much that the stories are there but invisible, but it's that the stories could be there. There's the potential for us to think about and recognize that all of the things around us, we are interdependent on countless others for those. And by understanding that, it changes our perspective, because the final thing that is scarce often is a scarcity of respect, and a scarcity of appreciation for the things around us, and the people who have brought those into existence. And so our job, I would posit, is to reverse some of these situations, or to at least correct these, by creating an abundance of respect in our mind for everyone and everything that's contributed to our current circumstances. And we can do that by telling these stories of what is a bit invisible to us now, and beginning to think about all of the people who have contributed to our getting to the place we are today, all of the knowledge and the ideas. Every book that we have, for example, is someone's life summarized in words, right? It's decades often of experience summarized in a few words. Every tree, for example, is decades worth of growth and energy. And so there's all these stories that, if we bring those to life, even though those are kind of invisible, even though we have an overabundance of information from one point of view, if we bring to life in our imagination these stories of where things have come from, and our interdependence on others, we can build or restore this mind of respect. And we can also shift our attention a little bit away from all of the fast changing information to some of the slower stories that are, and begin to reclaim some of our attention and begin to reclaim our attention, putting our attention on these stories that help us to develop gratitude and wisdom. So that's the thesis. So what we can do is to start with a little bit of meditation, just to settle in, and to prepare our mind, and then we can contemplate this in a little bit more depth after the meditation. So in our meditation, what we're doing is we are working to restore our attention, working to build the peace and strength of mind that is not so easily dragged around by circumstances. And so we can find a comfortable position for our meditation. We can sit with our back upright but relaxed. We take a deep breath in and out. And then another breath and invite ourselves to relax. And then another breath, just asking ourselves, what is important now? If we want to focus on one thing, we necessarily have to give up focusing on other things. That's difficult for us. We are normally very attached to many things. We don't want to give anything away, even ideas, even thoughts, possibilities. So we need some strength of mind to move in the opposite direction of reclaiming our attention, recognizing that attention is incredibly valuable, especially because it's scarce. So for this short period of time, we can practice giving up and giving away other thoughts and ideas, simplifying our attention for a brief period of time. And we start by bringing our attention to our body. Speaking of something that we tend to ignore, but that is always working behind the scenes to support us. How about our body? And there are countless miracles happening moment by moment to keep our body alive. Our breathing, our heartbeat, every cell in our body, our metabolism, our brain function, all of our inner organs. an endless series of miracles. Perhaps we don't have adequate respect. Perhaps we lack adequate respect for our own life, our own energy, our own body, time. This is a good place to start. Every breath is just a reminder for us to remember and appreciate how much benefit we receive from our body, our life, all the untold stories. And then we can move our attention out from our own body, imagining that we're in a beautiful, inspiring, uplifting place. We imagine around us all of the people in our life, past, present, doesn't matter. The people who have influenced us, the people who have shaped our life, starting with our parents, partners, friends, co-workers, those who've inspired and influenced us. But instead of allowing ourselves to think about them in an ordinary way, we imagine that they're all peaceful, happy, smiling, and delighted to be engaging in meditation with us. We imagine that we are shifting their minds to also be enjoying inner peace, building their attention, their respect, their wisdom. Normally we are influenced by our social circle. Here we take control. We imagine bringing everyone around us into a state of peace. And we can bring to mind the kindness of these people, our parents for giving us this life, everyone who's helped us, including those who've helped us by challenging us, helping us to build our patience, our humility, giving us difficulties and so forth. Recognize all of this as directly or indirectly making us stronger, wiser, more peaceful. Not wasting any experience. Bring to mind, in particular, anyone who we feel has been particularly kind to us. And just cultivating a heart of respect. Just filling our mind with this. And while we may have a special connection with some people, have received particular kindness from them, we can recognize that whether we know it or not, or like it or not, we are in fact dependent directly or indirectly on all these other people in our social circle. They are all very kind in their own ways. They're all worthy of our respect. And then for the last minute or so, we develop an intention to use these connections to repay the kindness of others, to repay others' kindness through our respect, primarily, and to hold this mind, build this mind throughout our life. And then with this good intention, we can relax our concentration and arise from our meditation. So I don't think I'll have an opportunity to guide meditation in the business meeting that I'm attending, but that's the sort of underlying theme, that what has become scarce is our attention, and also there is a scarcity of respect. There was uh, an analysis that came out recently from a famous business consulting company, McKinsey, analyzing the Great Resignation, why people are considering leaving their jobs. And the stat was that 41% of people are seriously considering leaving their jobs in the next 6 months. So I don't know if that includes any of you or not, or your friends, but apparently it's a thing. It's a very big thing. And the part that was most interesting to me was that they asked employers why they thought employees wanted to leave or were considering leaving. And then they asked employees why they were considering leaving, what was most important to them, or what was most important to them in the company that would get them to stay or go to another company. And there was a really interesting discrepancy between those two answers, that employers tended to think that employees were being headhunted by some competing company, or they were looking for increased salary, or everybody agreed that work-life balance was important. But what there were top four things that employees thought were extraordinarily important, that employees didn't really recognize as being that important, or didn't see as being that important. And the number one was being valued by your company. The number two was being valued by your manager, and you recognize that your manager is basically a representative of the company. In theory, you want to be valued by the company, whatever that is, this big entity, lots of people, but your manager is the first person. Having a close connection with coworkers, feeling a close bond and connection with coworkers, and the fourth was having a sense of meaning and purpose in your job. And so if I think about this, being valued by your managers, being valued by the company, or feeling a sense of connection, um, to value something, to appreciate something, to admire something, to respect it, to love it, they're basically all um, equivalent terms. So being valued by our company, being respected, receiving respect, receiving love, if you want. And these were the top four things that employees considered to be most valuable that employers didn't fully recognize. And they're all, in in my view, about this social bond, and especially this wish for respect and connection, and a sense, um, receiving respect from the company and from your manager, feeling a mutual bond of respect from your colleagues and your coworkers, and having a sense of meaning and purpose means that you feel that what your job is contributing to is worthy of respect from broader society, for example, like that what you're doing, you'll be glad to think back. At least that's my interpretation. Maybe there's other ideas, but of what it means to have a sense of meaning in our life is that we've done something which, when we die, people will be glad that we showed up and did it. And in a sense, meaning and purpose is the respect and the value that others give to us. Have we made we showed up? Was that meaningful for the party? Did that bring benefit to others? Was there a net value for us appearing? And so all of these things really are about having a sense that we are delivering value and we are valued, but really in a very, in not in a monetary sense, but in a very social sense. And this really reinforces for me the idea that our workplaces are communities, and we're craving community, we're craving connection, we're craving a sense of meaning. Now, there's no end to our craving for respect. You can be the, CEO and the most central person in the company, and then still you're like, people don't respect me. And that's probably true, right? Because the CEO becomes like a central point of blame for everybody as well. And so, but it's not for lack of being noticed, right? Everybody pays attention to the CEO, and so there's a sense in which we never there's a sense in which that thirst and that craving for being respected and receiving respect is unquenchable, and it is like the traditional analogy is like drinking salt water. You drink as much as you want; it just makes you thirstier. No matter how much salt water you drink, it just makes you thirstier. So our mind naturally thinks, I should be respected, I need respect, and so forth. And that is what we call a kind of attachment. And the idea attachment basically means you link your happiness or suffering to something else. So for people who are very attached to their finances, as their wealth goes up, they feel good. As their wealth goes down, they feel bad. When people are very attached to the broader stock market, every day those little green and red arrows are like affecting people's emotional state. Now, that may or may not describe us, but we're attached to something. We're attached to a lot of things. We tend to be attached, definitely, to respect. But even our distraction is a kind of attachment. It takes energy to know things. It takes energy to pay attention, so to speak, but it takes energy to know things, to bring your attention here and there and so forth. So why would our mind naturally be expending energy to think about this and think about that and look at this and lots of notifications? Why would we do that? It's because our brain thinks that there is some reward. There's something to be gained. We want something. There is an attachment to knowing new things, for example, or thinking about things, or great ideas, or But the more we're thinking about these other things, the harder it is for us to sustain our attention on one thing. So if we want to be focused on one thing, you necessarily have to sacrifice. It's like giving up possessions. It's like giving up things that you like, even giving up ideas, interests. There's a sacrifice, and we don't like that. So we are. When we're training our attention, when we're training and paying attention to something, we are practicing non-attachment. And one of the things we tend to think about a lot is whether people respect us or like us or not. But the point is, rather than being attached to what other people think of us, we can reverse this relationship by intentionally cultivating respect for them. And so we use our attention to tell stories about the kindness of others, what an excellent job they've done, how hard they're working, appreciating their contributions, understanding the invisible interdependencies that we all experience, how everything, every possession we have has come from others. And so in this way, as we're telling ourselves these stories, we're reclaiming our own attention. We're focusing on something that's truly valuable, which is, we're reclaiming our own attention, which is valuable. And we're focusing on lines of thinking, storytelling that helps us to develop respect for others. Instead of craving for them to give us respect, we are intentionally giving them respect. And this is a discipline, it's a training. The net result of that, when you respect others, they naturally like you. So what happens when you respect somebody? You like them, you're happy to see them. And I believe, I'm happy for somebody to prove me wrong, but there's nothing more likable about another person than when they like you. So I love my mom. Why do I love my mom? Because she loves me, right? She likes me. She sees me. She smiles, and then just that naturally makes me like her. And now, there is nothing that makes us dislike somebody more than when they dislike us. If somebody gets angry at us and blames us for something, and of course, with a close relationship, we go between love and hate, quite dramatically sometimes, with your partner and whatever else. But if somebody gets angry at you and they're blaming you, what do? We're like, I did not do that. You did that, right? And we immediately return the blame and get angry in response. We think about how unfair it is that they were blaming us. So we can know this about what we're like, right? What people are like. People respect those who respect them. And instead of us just craving respect, we focus on giving respect to the people around us. And in this way, we accomplish these two things. We train and keep our attention focused consciously on this, which is beneficial for us as a main training. And then we naturally, by giving respect, of course, we'll naturally receive respect as not because that's our main goal, but as a side effect. And we will build stronger, more satisfying, more cohesive communities that are more of a joy to be part of, and that we and others are happy to participate in long term, because we do want this as human beings. Community is a scarcity. In a sense, we have more connection than ever, but how much respect is flowing through those connections is questionable. So, so why don't we take just a couple of minutes to let that settle in, and with this final conclusion as an object of meditation. So we can, again, just take a deep breath in and out, return to our peaceful state of mind, and we can think, our attention is one of our rarest and most precious possessions. we need to protect our attention. And at the same time, we need to deepen our wisdom and peace of mind by cultivating respect for others. So we can think this is a discipline and a training that we can practice at all times, learning how to cherish others, learning how to respect them. This transforms our mind. And gradually transforms our community. So again, we bring to mind those people in our social network, social circle. And we just think, I will cultivate strong respect for all of these people and train in this as a discipline. And then we can reflect that we have changed our mind through this very brief time together. We have deepened and strengthened these mental pathways that all beings, all people need to travel these same pathways. We can think we are forging a trail or a path in our own mind that is a path that our world desperately needs. And we just reflect on the benefit that would arise if everyone were to reclaim their attention and cultivate profound respect for others. And we make a decision to carry this attitude with us into our daily life. We can arise from our meditation.